When I got to my classroom that day, I was in 8th grade, they had the news on in the classrooms, which was the only time I've ever seen them have anything on the TVs besides the time. Everybody was watching it, and that was when the second plane hit the second tower, and immediately everybody knew that this wasn't an accident anymore. When I got into high school, I joined the junior ROTC program, and that was definitely as a result of 9/11. And after I graduated high school, I ended up joining the Marine Corps, which was also a direct result of 9/11, and ended up going to Afghanistan twice. My unit took about 1% of the total casualties from all 20 years. The importance of 9/11 showed us that we need to be prepared to defend ourselves, and not necessarily against another country, but there are smaller groups such as terrorists or, other non-government entities that can hit us and hit us hard. On September 11th, a few thousand Americans died that day and countless others were injured, and that wasn't done by a government, that was done by a group of people. There's one other memory I have of right after September 11th, and it was riding through the neighborhood and seeing an American flag on nearly every single home in the neighborhood. I remember that vividly, and I miss that.
It was a beautiful morning on the East Coast. I was working at Princeton University at the time, and it kind of went from person to person that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. Being that close to New York City, I had a number of friends that worked in the city that weren't far from the Twin Towers, trying to get in touch with them, trying to find out, make sure everyone was okay. There was just a lot of confusion. It changed the nation from a group of people, which we see today, that are politically separated, into one of unity and one of everyone coming together. I was also in the Coast Guard at the time. Certainly we were waiting for orders as to what our next step would be, being not that far from New York City. We were not activated then, but we were much more aware of our surroundings when we were at the station, when we were on board and underway. Certainly had much more of an eye as to individuals that were out on the water. I had a friend whose brother was killed in the collapse of the World Trade Center. These families, these friends of mine, they live with it every day. There's a widow out there. There's children that don't have their parents. There's parents that don't have their children. It was something that will go on for the rest of their lives. Coming away from 9/11, again, is the realization that you can't take any day for granted. So many people woke up that day, going to work, thinking about the weekend, and that was their last day on Earth. And you just can't say how important it is to just appreciate every day, appreciate the people in your life, and just try to live to the best that you can.
I remember how dramatically and how quickly things changed. I was stationed at Pope Air Force Base in North Carolina. It was 2 weeks to the day after September 11th that I was headed to the Middle East. And so incredible personal change for me, in that had all the plans, I think, heading into the fall of a variety of things I was going to do personally, and just in a matter of moments, I was headed down range with this team. Next thing I knew, I was in Oman on an air base that we were standing up from scratch to support the whole fight. And that's where we stood up an entire medical evacuation and hospital, as well as a C-130 point of embarkation and debarkation that went in and out of the theater and brought supplies in and then brought wounded people out. First and foremost, it was the first attack on the continental United States since the War of 1812. We had people that hate us come at us on our own turf, using our own assets against us. Looking back in the history and the facts we know now, a lot of it could have potentially been preventable. For me, what we did going into Afghanistan with the intent we originally had, I felt somewhat vindicated. I felt it was justified. I look back on my deployment as really kind of a capstone for, quite honestly, my military career. That was kind of the top of the heap in terms of why I joined the military, why I wanted to do what we did, and I'll never forget it.
My father and my family was stationed at Travis Air Force Base, so I was getting ready for school to go to elementary school there. The morning of, I woke up and I turned on the boombox, the big boombox that they have back then, and turned the radio station on to 107.9, my country music. And while I was listening, I heard that planes hit the World Trade Center. And I went into school that day and I saw some of my classmates frightened and scared and crying because we felt the hurt and the sting of it all, and we as children were, of course, worried and frightened that our parents would have to probably go take up arms and defend our wonderful hurting country at the time. For me, I just I did deploy, and my sister, actually, Melissa, we deployed at the same time, a few months apart, to the same location. We went to Qatar. Some of the pictures I have are of her and I. We were able to spend Christmas, New Year's, and Thanksgiving together. We haven't gotten where we are alone or by ourselves. It's people who have gone before us, our founding fathers, and those who have sacrificed a lot for us.
Joining the military didn't really dawn on me until I had moved away from home to go to school, here to Arizona, and I realized this is something I need to do not only for myself, but to serve for something bigger than myself, but also to serve my country, because I saw what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan at the time, and I felt like I needed to do my part. I couldn't be happier or more proud of everything I've done over a 13-year career. Would I have done anything different? I don't think so. Would I have changed the way anything has gone? No. The biggest thing I remember about that day was not necessarily airplanes hitting the towers, but the way we all felt and the way the world kind of interacted with each other before and then after. Many think of the Pearl Harbor, World War II generation as the greatest generation. And I would put the global war on terrorism or the GWOT generation, a pretty close second to that, because we all volunteered. We were, defending ourselves as what we stand for, our ideals as a nation. And I think that's kind of what we need to get back to.
The morning of 9/11, I'm up at 5:30 or 6, getting my uniform on, heading out the door. By the time that I got in my car to drive to the base, the first plane had already hit. And in the half a mile or so before the gas station where I would normally get coffee and whatnot, turn on the local hip-hop rock radio station, and they're just talking about some crazy tragedy. They had no details to tell us. The base itself had already kind of elevated itself to a heightened level of security. It's just kind of a precaution. We're not really sure what's going on. The rest of the day was, from a work standpoint, was a blur, because it's just this radio, that radio. I was just working. I mean, I went out to the flight line. I came in for lunch, ate our quick lunch, 20 minutes, and then we were back on the flight line. It completely changed my entire career focus. I was an engineering major for 2 years. I thought I was going to get a degree in electrical engineering, and now I study international relations, and I study the political philosophy of the ethics of war. And a lot of that, I think, is attributable to my time sitting on the flight line, nothing to do except, read. Here I am now, faculty teaching these subjects to students, In one sense, it reminded Americans that just because the Cold War was over doesn't mean foreign affairs stopped. Never forgetting 9/11 reminds us not only of those who lost their lives on 9/11, but also all of those who lost their lives in support of national security purposes in the years since.